This episode opens with intense emotional confrontation, and the dialogue immediately tells us that someone has been living inside a lie. When we hear lines like, "I was going to tell you everything," and "you don't actually love me," it's clear that this isn't just a simple misunderstanding anymore. These are words spoken too late. There's regret, guilt, and the realization that truth has a way of coming out at the worst possible time. The moment Dicle learns about the divorce changes everything. She's no longer in the dark, no longer just reacting emotionally without facts. Now she understands the situation more clearly, and that knowledge shifts the emotional balance between her and Erkan. For Erkan, this creates pressure because he can no longer hide behind confusion or excuses. The emotional stakes immediately rise. At the same time, Dicle's transformation becomes the heart of the episode. When she appears at the entertainment night and stands out as the most beautiful girl there, it's not just a physical glow-up. It symbolizes an internal rebirth. She is no longer the quiet woman waiting to be chosen. She is stepping into her own presence, no longer afraid to be seen or valued. If the scene is shot with strong atmosphere, music, and camera focus on reactions, it can become one of the most powerful turning points of a series. Erkan's reaction to seeing her is layered. On the surface, he's shocked by her beauty and confidence. But underneath that shock is something deeper, the realization that his feelings may still be alive and that he never fully understood who Dicle really was. In that moment, Dicle becomes a mirror reflecting his own choices back at him. She forces him to question what he gave up and whether he made his decision out of love or weakness. This episode also suggests that the emotional focus of the story is slowly shifting toward Dicle and Erkan's bond. In the earlier episodes, their relationship was built on distance, misunderstandings, and forced proximity. Now, we are likely entering the stage where feelings become visible, even if they are not openly confessed. There may not be a big love declaration yet, but subtle romantic signals will probably start appearing. Longer eye contact, softer tones in conversations, moments of unexpected concern, or jealousy that neither of them can explain. A shared crisis could be the key moment that pushes them closer, especially if Erkan shows unexpected protectiveness toward Dicle during one of her vulnerable moments. That kind of support can transform their dynamic completely. At the same time, tension around Bersin is quietly building. The question of whether this marriage is based on love, obligation, or status will likely drive future conflict. If Bersin senses that Erkan's heart is somewhere else, the marriage could quickly turn into an emotional battlefield rather than a partnership. This adds psychological tension beyond a simple love triangle. Overall, this episode feels like a beginning rather than a resolution. Dicle and Erkan probably won't become a couple by the end, but emotionally something undeniable will start between them. The love won't be fully spoken, yet it won't be possible to ignore. And from this point forward, every decision Erkan makes will carry heavier consequences, especially as Dicle's confidence grows and the power balance in their relationship slowly begins to shift. The most likely interpretation of this episode is that Dicle and Erkan's love officially begins, but it remains unspoken. The audience will clearly see that they are affected by each other, that something real has started, but the characters themselves won't put a name to it yet. And that delay is exactly what raises the emotional tempo of the story. It keeps the tension alive. It makes every glance, every pause in conversation, every unfinished sentence feel heavier. That's what makes episode 4 so important. Hey everyone, welcome back. If you're rooting for Erkan and Dicle's love story to finally begin, this is the episode that lays the foundation. And if you think Dicle's incredible transformation made her the most beautiful girl of the night, then you already know this wasn't just about appearance, it was about power shifting. Episode 4 sharply changes the emotional axis of the story by bringing the characters' inner conflicts to the surface. The biggest turning point is Erkan giving in to his father's pressure and agreeing to marry Bersin. This decision clearly exposes the fracture between his personal will and his sense of family obligation. It shows us that Erkan is not as strong or decisive as he may appear. He is influenced, guided, and at times controlled by traditional authority. On a deeper level, This represents the clash between individual emotion and cultural expectation. Erkan doesn't choose with courage. He chooses with fear. And that makes him a more tragic, but also more flawed, character. The harshest emotional impact of this decision falls on Dicle. Hearing that Erkan easily agreed to marry someone else is not just heartbreak for her. It becomes a moment where she confronts feelings of abandonment and worthlessness. It's not simply about losing a man she loves, it's about questioning her own value. Her breakdown and crying for help reveal her emotional vulnerability in a very human way, creating a strong connection with the audience. We don't just see her pain, we feel it with her. But what makes this powerful is that her collapse becomes the starting point of her transformation. Dicle's dramatic shift becomes the central rebirth theme of the episode. When she stands out as the most beautiful girl at the entertainment night, it is not a superficial glow-up moment. It symbolizes her reclaiming her confidence and identity. She is no longer the passive woman waiting quietly to be chosen. She begins transforming into someone who is not afraid to be seen. In classic romantic drama structure, this is the recognition moment, the scene where the overlooked woman steps into her full presence. Erkan's shock when he sees her carries layered meaning. On one hand, it suggests that the feelings he tried to suppress are still alive. On the other hand, it reveals that he never truly understood Dicle's depth or value. He may have taken her for granted, seeing her only within the limits of his comfort zone. Now, faced with this new version of her, he begins to realize what he may be losing. The episode subtly pushes the audience to question him. Are his emotions genuinely repressed, or is he simply a prisoner of habit and fear? The tension created by his decision to marry Bersin adds another dimension to the story. How Bersin approaches this marriage will define the future dynamics of this triangle. If she views the marriage as a victory or status gain, then rivalry with Dicle becomes inevitable. But if Bersin carries doubts or senses that Erkan's heart is elsewhere, then the marriage begins on unstable emotional ground. That instability has the potential to turn the relationship into a psychological battlefield rather than a simple romantic complication. Overall, Episode 4 functions as a threshold episode. It focuses less on external events and more on internal transformation. The characters are no longer just making romantic decisions. They are questioning who they are, what they truly want, and what they are willing to sacrifice. Erkan's choice hints strongly at future regret. Meanwhile, Dicle's transformation gradually shifts the emotional power balance in the story.